Kira Patel hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the strange patterns dancing across her monitors demanded attention. The quantum encryption specialist's apartment had become a cave of glowing screens and empty coffee cups, each display showing increasingly concerning data about global network anomalies. "This isn't possible," she muttered, fingers flying across 3 keyboards simultaneously. The quantum fluctuations in the data streams defied every security protocol she'd helped design over the past decade. Something was probing Earth's digital defenses with impossible precision. The news played quietly in the background, its usual drone of political drama suddenly interrupted by an urgent bulletin. Astronomical observatories worldwide report an unidentified object has entered the solar system, exhibiting properties that defy known physics. Kira's phone buzzed with an emergency alert from the National Cyber Defense Center, where she consulted on quantum security architecture. Before she could read it, every screen in her apartment flickered simultaneously. The quantum encryption layers she'd helped build were being systematically dismantled by something that shouldn't exist. "Director Harrison," she said into her secure phone line, "we've got a situation that's way beyond script kiddies or state actors. The quantum barriers are being decoded faster than theoretically possible." She paused, watching new data stream across her displays. "And I don't think it's a coincidence. This is happening right as that object appears in our solar system." The response came through with heavy static. "Get to the command center. We're seeing similar patterns worldwide. Banking systems are going dark, power grids are fluctuating, and satellite communications are degrading." Kira was already packing her laptop, but her attention remained fixed on one particular data stream. The attack pattern seemed oddly familiar, like looking at a distorted reflection of her own work. She'd seen something similar during the early days of quantum encryption development, when they were still working out the foundational algorithms. The drive to the NCDC headquarters was surreal. Traffic lights flickered randomly, electronic billboards displayed cascading error messages, and people stood on street corners staring at dead phones. The modern world was unraveling one digital thread at a time. Inside the command center, organized chaos reigned. Analysts rushed between workstations while military personnel conferred in hushed tones. Director Harrison, a former NSA veteran with steel-gray hair, waved Kira over to a central station. "Show her," he commanded a junior analyst, who pulled up a global visualization of network failures. Red lines spread across the planet like digital wildfire. "The pattern isn't random," Kira said, leaning closer. "They're testing our responses, learning from each probe. But there's something else." She pulled up her own data analysis on a separate screen. "The way they're approaching our quantum encryption, it's like they're working from an outdated playbook." "Explain," Harrison demanded. "These attack patterns match our early quantum encryption protocols, the ones we abandoned years ago because of fundamental vulnerabilities. It's like they somehow got hold of our first drafts, but not our revisions." A deep rumble shook the building, and the main screen showed new alerts. Energy signatures were appearing over major cities worldwide, massive concentrations of power that defied known physics. "They're not just attacking our networks," Kira realized, her voice barely a whisper. "They're using our own quantum principles against us, but scaled up to weapons grade. They've built a doomsday device based on our basic research." Harrison's face went pale. "How long?" Kira's fingers flew across the keyboard, calculations racing through her mind. "Based on the energy buildup, maybe 18 hours before they can target major population centers." But a smile slowly spread across her face. "If they're really using our old quantum principles as a foundation, they've made a crucial mistake." "What mistake?" "They built a superweapon using flawed architecture. It's like building a skyscraper on quicksand. Our early quantum protocols had a critical vulnerability, one I helped discover." Kira pulled up ancient code files, fragments of the original quantum encryption framework. "They've taken our mistakes and amplified them 1,000-fold. And if I'm right..." New alarms blared as power grids across Asia began to fail. Time was running out, but Kira barely noticed. She was already deep in the code, preparing to prove that humanity's early missteps might just become their salvation. "Get me every quantum specialist we can reach," she commanded, her voice carrying an authority that made even Harrison straighten. "And I need access to every quantum-capable system still online. We're going to teach our visitors why you should always check your sources." As the command center erupted into renewed activity, Kira allowed herself a grim smile. The aliens had made a classic programmer's mistake. They copied code without understanding its flaws. Now it was time to show them why humanity had abandoned these protocols in the first place, and the lesson would be explosive. Lieutenant James Rodriguez stared at the quantum computation specialist with a mixture of skepticism and desperation. "You're telling me these aliens built a weapon based on our rejected theories?" Kira didn't look up from her workstation, where streams of data flowed across 6 synchronized displays. More specifically, they built it using principles we abandoned because they were fundamentally unstable, like finding the first draft of a blueprint and not checking if there was a revision. The NCDC command center had transformed into humanity's digital war room. Quantum physicists and computer specialists from around the world connected through hastily established secure channels, their faces filling screens along the walls. Power outages had already plunged Jakarta and Manila into darkness, and Moscow's grid was showing critical instabilities. "Dr. Patel," a voice called from one of the screens. It was Dr. Lakshmi Venkat from India's Quantum Research Institute. "We're seeing patterns in the alien transmissions that match the quantum entanglement cascades from Project Mirror." Kira's hands froze over her keyboard. Project Mirror had been her first major quantum security initiative, abandoned 5 years ago when they discovered that increasing power to the system caused exponential instability. "Send me everything you have." Director Harrison moved between workstations, his usual commanding presence somewhat diminished by the chaos surrounding them. "We've got reports of strange phenomena around major population centers. Objects disappearing, time distortions, reality itself seems to be breaking down." "That tracks," Kira muttered, comparing data streams. "They're using quantum principles to manipulate space-time, but they're doing it with corrupted protocols. It's like they found our homework and copied all our mistakes." The building shuddered as another energy pulse rippled through the atmosphere. Outside, the sky had taken on an otherworldly purple hue, quantum effects becoming visible to the naked eye. "Less analysis, more solutions," Harrison barked. "What can we actually do about this?" Kira pulled up the original Project Mirror documentation, her mind racing through possibilities. "The alien weapon operates on a scale we never imagined possible, but it's still using our basic quantum frameworks. The same vulnerability that made Project Mirror unstable could be our advantage." Dr. Venkat's voice crackled through the speakers. "The cascade effect. If we could trigger it at their scale." "Exactly." Kira's fingers flew across her keyboard. "We need to force their system into quantum resonance. The same flaw that made our early experiments fail could cause their entire weapon to collapse." Lieutenant Rodriguez leaned closer to her screens. "You want to hack an alien superweapon using its own code against it." "Not hack. Destabilize. We're going to show them why peer review matters." Kira pulled up a global map showing the alien energy signatures. "But we need more processing power. Every quantum computer still online needs to be networked for this to work." Harrison was already moving. "I'll get authorization." "What else?" "Time," Kira said, watching as Sydney's power grid began to fail. "And hope that these aliens are as careless with their error handling as they were with their source code." The next hours passed in a blur of code and calculations. Quantum specialists from 3 continents worked to adapt Kira's original Cascade protocols into a weapon. The alien energy signatures continued to grow, reality warping visibly around major cities. "We've got movement," Rodriguez called out. "The object in orbit is changing position." Kira glanced at the tactical display. The alien vessel had maintained a stationary orbit until now, but it was suddenly maneuvering with impossible acceleration. "They've detected our preparations. We need to move faster. Quantum network is at 60% capacity, Dr. Venkat reported. Paris and London have gone dark, but we're rerouting through backup systems. Another tremor shook the building, stronger this time. Warning signals flashed across multiple screens. The alien weapon was powering up for what looked like a major activation. We're out of time, Harrison announced. Dr. Patel, whatever you're going to do. Almost there. Kira's hands danced across multiple keyboards, coordinating the efforts of quantum systems across the globe. The cascade has to be precisely timed, or we'll just give them more power to work with. The tactical display showed energy readings going off the scale. The alien vessel was now positioned directly over North America, its weapon signature building toward critical levels. Now or never, Doctor. Harrison's voice was steady despite the chaos. Kira took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the enter key. Everything hinged on her theory being correct, that the aliens had built their super weapon on fundamentally flawed principles. If she was wrong, she was about to give them even more power to work with. Time to test your error handling, she whispered, and pressed the key. Across every screen, quantum systems worldwide initiated the cascade sequence. The alien energy signatures fluctuated wildly as humanity's coordinated quantum pulse slammed into their systems. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the sky turned inside out. Reality rippled like a stone thrown into a cosmic pond. Through the command center's reinforced windows, the purple-tinged sky twisted into impossible geometries. The alien vessel's energy signature fluctuated wildly, its quantum fields destabilizing, exactly as Kira had predicted. But something was wrong. The cascade isn't propagating properly. Dr. Venkat's voice crackled through increasingly unstable communications. They're adapting, redirecting the energy somehow. Kira's screen showed the impossible. The aliens were learning, evolving their systems in real time. They're using our attack to refine their quantum protocols. We just gave them a crash course in quantum stability. English, Doctor, Harrison demanded, steadying himself as another reality wave shook the building. We showed them why their weapon was flawed, Kira explained, fingers flying across her keyboards. And now they're fixing it. We need a new approach, fast. Lieutenant Rodriguez pointed to the tactical display. Energy signatures are reforming over major cities, stronger than before. Whatever they're doing it better now. Kira stared at her displays, mind racing. The aliens had adapted to their first attack, but something about their response pattern nagged at her. Their corrections were too perfect, too systematic. They're not thinking, she whispered, then louder. They're not thinking. Their system is automated. It's responding to threats using preset protocols. There's no creativity, no intuition. Dr. Venkat's image leaned forward, like a highly advanced antivirus program that can only respond to known threats. Kira finished, already pulling up new code windows. We need to stop thinking like engineers and start thinking like hackers. Something unprecedented, unpredictable. What are you suggesting? Harrison asked. Do we introduce chaos into the system? Not a coordinated attack. The opposite. Every quantum computer running different, random variations of the cascade effect. Make it impossible for their systems to predict and counter. You want to turn the greatest quantum computing network ever assembled into a random number generator. Rodriguez sounded incredulous. I want to show them why human unpredictability is our greatest strength. Kira responded, already coding. Dr. Venkat, can you coordinate with the Asian quantum labs? We need as many different variations as possible. The next hour was a blur of frantic coding and coordination. Quantum specialists worldwide worked to create their own unique versions of the cascade effect, each introducing different elements of chaos into the system. The alien vessel continued to hover, its weapon now emanating patterns of energy that defied physics itself. First wave ready, Dr. Venkat announced, standing by for synchronization. Don't synchronize, Kira countered. That's what they'll expect. Launch attacks randomly. Let chaos be our ally. Harrison nodded grimly. Give the order. Kira initiated her sequence, watching as other systems worldwide began launching their own unique attacks. The effects were immediate and spectacular. The alien quantum fields began to fluctuate erratically, unable to compensate for the sheer variety of threats they faced. It's working, Rodriguez called out. Their energy signatures are becoming unstable. But victory celebrations died as quickly as they began. The alien vessel suddenly emitted a pulse of energy that made reality itself scream. Every quantum computer in their network went dark simultaneously. They're not just adapting, Kira realized, horror dawning as new data scrolled across her emergency displays. They're learning from every attack, incorporating our chaos into their own systems. We just taught them human unpredictability. The command center fell silent as implications sank in. They had given the aliens exactly what they needed: a crash course in human innovation. The weapon's energy signatures were now stronger than ever, and they had just lost most of their quantum computing network. Options. Harrison's voice was quiet but firm. Kira stared at her screens, watching the alien energy patterns evolve. They were beautiful in their complexity, a perfect fusion of rigid alien protocols and human chaos. Then she noticed something, a pattern within patterns, a familiar sequence buried in the quantum noise. They learned from us, she said slowly, a new idea forming. But they learned too well. They incorporated our chaos so perfectly that they've inherited our greatest weakness. Which is? Rodriguez asked. Kira's fingers began to move across her keyboard with renewed purpose. Humanity's greatest weakness is also our greatest strength. We make mistakes. Beautiful, unpredictable, innovative mistakes. And I think I know how to make their perfect system make one final fatal error. As she outlined her plan, the sky continued to twist overhead, and the fate of humanity rested on teaching an alien superweapon how to fail in a uniquely human way. A virus, Director Harrison repeated slowly. You want to infect an alien superweapon with a virus. Kira's fingers never stopped moving across her keyboard as she explained. Not just any virus. We're going to use their own perfectionism against them. They've absorbed our chaos, but implemented it perfectly, too perfectly. They've created a system that's so good at adapting that it will eagerly integrate any improvement it finds. The remaining screens in the command center showed a world in chaos. Reality distortions had spread to every major city, and the alien vessel's weapon signature had evolved into something that barely registered on their instruments. Dr. Patel. Dr. Venkat's voice came through with heavy static, one of the few quantum specialists still connected. You're suggesting we feed their system an upgrade that's actually a trap. Exactly. They show them they'll automatically integrate any quantum protocols they think will improve their system. So we give them something irresistible. A quantum optimization algorithm that looks perfect on the surface. Lieutenant Rodriguez leaned over her shoulder, studying the code she was writing. But underneath it's a time bomb. Kira pulled up the original Project Mirror documentation. Remember how our early quantum experiments failed because of cascade effects? We're going to write the most elegant, perfect-looking quantum optimization protocol ever created. One that will trigger a cascade so massive, it'll make our first attempt look like a firecracker. Harrison's expression was grim. They adapted to our first cascade attack. What's to stop them from adapting to this one? Because this time, we're not attacking them. We're giving them exactly what they want. A quantum protocol that promises perfect efficiency. Their automated systems won't be able to resist implementing it. And by the time they realize it's a trap, the cascade will be coming from inside their own systems. The building shook again as another reality wave passed through. Outside, the purple sky had begun to fracture into crystalline patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. We've got more cities going dark, Rodriguez reported. Beijing, Seoul, and Toronto just lost all power. The weapons effects are accelerating. How long to code this virus? Harrison asked. Kira glanced at her screens. The basic structure is done. But it needs to be perfect. Not just look perfect, but actually contain revolutionary quantum optimization code. If there's a single flaw in the legitimate parts, their system will reject it. And to write perfect code, you need to make a perfect mistake. Kira managed a grim smile. Dr. Venkat, I need you and anyone else still connected to check my work. This needs to be the most elegant quantum code ever written, right up until the moment it catastrophically fails. The next 2 hours were a desperate race against time. As cities worldwide went dark and reality itself began to unravel, the remaining quantum specialists worked to create something paradoxical, a piece of code that was simultaneously brilliant and fatal. Energy spike. Rodriguez called out suddenly. The weapon is charging for something big. Kira looked up at the tactical display. The alien vessel was now surrounded by a corona of quantum energy that defied description. Their window of opportunity was closing fast. Upload ready, she announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Once we transmit this, there's no going back. Their system will either accept it and begin integration immediately, or Earth's last defense will be rejected and we'll have nothing left to try. Harrison finished. He straightened his shoulders. Do it. Kira took a deep breath and initiated the transmission. On her screens, she could see their quantum virus being broadcast toward the alien vessel, disguised as a routine optimization protocol. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then her displays exploded with activity. They're accepting it. Dr. Venkat's voice was triumphant. The optimization protocols are being integrated into their core systems. Kira watched the data streams with intense focus. Wait for it. Wait for it. The alien vessel's energy signature suddenly shifted, becoming even more efficient, more powerful. For a moment, it seemed like they had just handed their enemies an actual upgrade. Then the first cascade began. The cascade started as a tiny flaw in the alien vessel's quantum field, a microscopic imperfection that would have been impossible to detect if Kira hadn't known exactly what to look for. Like a crack in a dam, it began to spread. Their systems are trying to compensate, Dr. Venkat reported, her voice tense with excitement. But every correction they make just triggers more cascade effects. Kira watched her displays with fierce intensity as the quantum virus did its work. The alien weapon's perfect efficiency was becoming its downfall. Each attempt to optimize around the cascading failures only triggered new ones. It's like a quantum immune system overreaction, she explained, tracking the exponential growth of instabilities. They're so committed to perfect optimization that they can't stop trying to fix it, and each fix makes it worse. Outside, the purple-tinged sky began to ripple with new patterns. The crystalline fractures in reality started to shimmer and crack as the alien vessel's quantum fields became increasingly unstable. Multiple cascade failures detected. Rodriguez called out. Their weapon signatures are fluctuating wildly. Harrison leaned over Kira's shoulder, watching the data streams. Is this supposed to happen? Before she could answer, reality itself seemed to hiccup. Every screen in the command center flickered simultaneously, and for a split second, everyone experienced the nauseating sensation of existing in multiple places at once. Their quantum fields are collapsing, Kira explained, fingers flying across her keyboard as she tracked the deterioration. All that perfect efficiency is unraveling. They built a weapon that could rewrite physics itself, but they didn't account for the chaos inherent in quantum systems. Incoming transmission. Rodriguez shouted suddenly. They're trying to communicate. A series of complex patterns flashed across the main screen. Not language, but pure mathematics. Kira's eyes widened as she recognized quantum equations. They're not trying to communicate, she breathed. They're trying to show us how to help them stop the cascade. They think we made a mistake that we'll want to help fix. Dr. Venkat's laughter crackled through the speakers. They still don't understand. They think this was an accident. The alien vessel was now visibly distorting. Its perfect form, twisted by competing quantum effects. The weapon's energy signatures began to fold in on themselves, reality warping fields collapsing into quantum singularities that winked out of existence. Should we respond to their transmission? Harrison asked. Kira shook her head, a grim smile on her face. They still think in absolutes, that anyone who understands the mathematics would naturally want to preserve perfect efficiency. They can't conceive that we deliberately created something beautiful and flawed. The sky outside suddenly blazed with impossible colors as the alien vessel's quantum fields reached critical instability. The transmission became more urgent, more complex equations streaming across their screens. Final cascade initiating, Kira announced, watching the numbers spiral toward infinity. Their weapon is about to experience every possible quantum state simultaneously, and their perfect systems can't handle quantum uncertainty on that scale. The command center fell silent as the alien vessel began to glow with inner light. Its perfect form, twisted through dimensional shapes that human eyes couldn't process, the laws of physics themselves protesting against what was happening. Then, with a flash that somehow made no light and a sound that no one heard, the vessel vanished. The purple tinge faded from the sky, reality snapping back to its proper shape like a rubber band released from tension. For several long moments, no one spoke. The screens showed normal readings returning to Earth's atmosphere, power grids slowly coming back online around the world. Did we just win a war by teaching aliens how to fail? Rodriguez asked quietly. Kira leaned back in her chair, suddenly exhausted. We taught them something more important. We taught them that perfection isn't always the answer. Sometimes the flawed is the feature. As celebrations erupted around the command center, Kira pulled up the code that had saved humanity. It was beautiful in its elegance, perfect in its execution, and fatally flawed by design. A uniquely human creation, a mistake so perfect it had become a victory. Director Harrison placed a hand on her shoulder. The President will want a full briefing. How do we explain that we defeated an alien superweapon by introducing a bug into their code? Kira smiled, thinking of all the late nights she spent debugging code, all the failures that had led to breakthroughs, all the imperfect solutions that had somehow worked better than the perfect ones. We tell them the truth, she said. Sometimes the best way to fix something is to break it just right.